20 million lives extinguished under his rule. A quarter of a century of domination over the largest nation on Earth. Joseph Stalin governed the Soviet Union with fear, suspicion, and a ruthless iron fist. While alive, no one was safe, not comrades, not generals, not even family. Yet when he died, millions mourned him as a savior. This is the story behind the myth. A journey into the making of one of history's most terrifying leaders. This is Joseph Stalin. He was born December 18, 1878, in the rough Georgian town of Gori, then part of the Russian Empire. His father, Besso, a shoemaker and a violent alcoholic, came home rarely, and when he did, he beat his wife and son. His mother, Katerina, was strict but protective. Young Stalin, then called Soso Jugashvili, grew up in an atmosphere of fear, chaos, and street violence. At the age of 12, he witnessed a public hanging. The memory scarred him and ignited a hatred for the Tsarist regime. He excelled in school, sang in the church choir, and won a scholarship to the Tiflis Theological Seminary. But instead of the Bible, he discovered Marx, Engels, and revolution. Expelled in 1899 for radical ideas, Stalin plunged into underground activism. He adopted the pseudonym Koba, the name of a Georgian outlaw hero. He organized strikes, wrote fiery articles, and stirred unrest across the Caucasus. Arrested again and again, he mastered escape, forging documents, disappearing into the night. By 1913, he was exiled to the frozen edges of Siberia, a punishment so harsh it hardened him completely. The young idealist was fading. A colder man was emerging. In 1906, he married his first wife, Kato Svanidze, who softened him briefly. When she died of typhus, Stalin whispered at her grave, "With her dies my last warm feelings for humanity." He abandoned their son, Yakov, and in later years, ordered the execution of much of Kato's family. The Russian Social Democratic Labor Party split in 1903. Stalin sided with Lenin and the Bolsheviks. He became useful, undermining rivals, organizing robberies, and intimidating opponents. Lenin called him the Wonderful Georgian. In 1912, he joined the Bolshevik Central Committee and took a new name, Stalin, Man of Steel. War, famine, and discontent weakened the Tsar. Then, in 1917, revolution ignited. The Romanov dynasty collapsed. Stalin returned from exile and edited Pravda, shaping Bolshevik messaging. When Lenin pushed for a second revolution later that year, Stalin was cautious, but ultimately stood with him. The Bolsheviks seized power. Russia was now in their hands. Russia plunged into civil war. Stalin became a political commissar, overseeing the defense of Tsaritsyn, later renamed Stalingrad. He clashed bitterly with Trotsky, sometimes ordering executions behind his back. In 1922, Lenin rewarded him with the position of General Secretary, a role Stalin quietly transformed into a base of power. But relations soured. Stalin crushed Georgian autonomy with brutal force, enraging Lenin. Before Lenin died, he wrote a testament. "Stalin is too rude. Remove him from his post." Stalin hid this document. He organized Lenin's funeral, stood as chief pallbearer, and transformed Lenin into a sacred icon, tying himself to that legacy. Opposing Stalin now meant opposing Lenin himself. Stalin's main rival was Leon Trotsky, brilliant, charismatic, and popular. But Stalin was building alliances silently, turning colleagues into subordinates. In 1925, Trotsky was forced to resign. In 1927, he was expelled from the party. Eventually, he was deported and years later, murdered in Mexico by Stalin's agents. By the late 1920s, Stalin held absolute control. And now, he unleashed the full vision of his rule. To accelerate industrial growth, Stalin launched forced collectivization, merging individual farms into state-run collectives. Resistors were labeled kulaks, enemies of the people. In 1929, he declared the liquidation of the kulaks as a class. Villagers denounced neighbors. Armed squads seized grain. Families were deported to Siberia or shot on sight. The result was tragedy. A man-made famine, especially devastating in Ukraine, where up to 10 million perished. Starving peasants were forbidden from leaving their villages. Even picking leftover grains from fields was punishable by death. While millions starved, Stalin exported grain abroad. Stalin pushed rapid industrialization through 5-year plans. New factories, cities, and steel mills emerged from nothing. The Soviet Union became an industrial giant, second only to the United States. But the human cost was staggering. Workers faced impossible quotas and harsh discipline. By 1935, over 1 million people were held in Gulag labor camps, freezing, starving, working to death. Progress was paid for in blood. In 1934, party leader Sergei Kirov was assassinated, likely on Stalin's orders. Stalin seized the moment. He unleashed the Great Terror. New laws stripped defendants of defense. Show trials filled Moscow. Confessions were extracted under torture. Millions were arrested. Hundreds of thousands were executed. The Red Army lost most of its top officers. Fear governed every home. No one, except Stalin, slept peacefully. In 1939, Stalin signed a non-aggression pact with Hitler, buying time. But on June 22, 1941, Germany invaded Russia in a devastating surprise attack. Stalin collapsed emotionally for days. Then he re-emerged and rallied the nation. Cities fell. Millions died. His own son, Yakov, was captured. When Germany offered a prisoner exchange, Stalin replied, "I have no son named Yakov." But winter, Soviet resilience, and Allied support turned the tide. By 1945, the Red Army marched into Berlin. The victory cost the Soviet Union more than 25 million lives. Stalin emerged not as a butcher, but as a hero. After the war, Stalin's paranoia deepened. Returning soldiers were imprisoned. Jewish doctors were arrested and executed. Propaganda deified him, father of nations, great leader, man of steel. But his health was failing. On February 28, 1953, after a night of feasting, Stalin collapsed from stroke. His guards were too terrified to disturb him for hours. He slowly suffocated, dying on March 5, 1953. Millions wept for him, unaware of the horrors he had created. Only 3 years later, Nikita Khrushchev revealed the truth, exposing Stalin's brutality in a shocking secret speech. The myth shattered, the Iron Shadow faded, but the scars of his rule remain etched into history.